What is up, beautiful people? I am the Sex Mechanic, and you are back for another episode of the Sex Mechanic podcast, where we talk about dating, sex, and situationships. I am, of course, your host, Jeanson Benoit, aka the Sex Mechanic, aka Confident Creator, aka I Did It My Way, aka damn, I had another AKA. I forgot. I got too many AKAs, man. So maybe I'll work on that. But yeah, you're back for another episode. I got my tea here, ready to get going. I told y'all I'm gonna be trying out different times and different days. I'm still doing Tuesdays right now, but I'm gonna be trying some different times on Tuesday that seem to fit the mood a little bit better. So stick with me, bear with me. I'll give you heads up and notice as I usually do ahead of time, at least within the day. But today we got a good one. Oh yeah, we got a good topic. Yeah, I might end up being mad at me today. Like I might have some people upset with me, and I might even lose some friends over this topic. But I don't care. Like I'm gonna speak my truth, and we're gonna talk about it in a very mature and adult way. And you might end up seeing things the way I see it by the end of it. Who knows? So I asked this question on my Instagram a couple days ago. The question was, what would you do if a friend or relative's ex came on to you? This, of course, is assuming that you're also attracted to this ex. This is also including, when I say, come on to you, this is also including not just, well, yeah, when I say come on to you, it can lead on obviously to different things. It can lead to sex, it could lead to dating, it could lead to more serious dating, it could possibly lead to, a long-term partnership. Who knows? You don't really know at the beginning what things are going to become, but yeah, all those things are assumed that it can go in any one of those directions. So what would you do? I asked that question. And I had, I think I remember the numbers. So 9 people responded and said that, oh, the options were, would you just go for it and ask questions later? Would you respect the unspoken code? Or would you ask permission from your friend or relative before moving forward with, whoever that ex is? And it was 5 for the first choice, 9 for the second choice, and 4 for the last choice. So most people definitely said that they felt like there was an unspoken code and they would respect that. So today we're going to discuss that. Oh, yeah, we're going to discuss that. Anybody who knows me knows that I don't really think like the general public or the way that society tends to see a lot of things. So this situation is no different, but I do want to come from different angles and I want to give the arguments for each side of this discussion. So let's go to the notes here. All right. I want to talk about why people would feel or choose any one of those things that they chose. All right. So for the people that said that they would just go for it and ask questions later. So they might be, or they might feel that way because maybe they feel like the friendship is strong enough or the, relationship as relatives is strong enough that a person a person is not going to come between them. A person that they were with wouldn't come between them. They might feel like somebody who's in the moment, and if something is in the moment and it feels right, then just go for it, and you know we'll think about the details about it later. They might be someone who prefers to ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission. There's a lot of people like that as well. Um, and they might be somebody who just feels differently about the topic, to where if they were in the same situation, they wouldn't mind either. And so they put themselves in somebody else's shoes and felt like it wouldn't be a big deal. So they went ahead and did it. For the other part, the other choice, the people that said that they would respect the unspoken code, that one's a little trickier, right? Because obviously that's what a lot of people are going to say because that's kind of the consensus among society is that there's a code, there's an unspoken, unwritten code that says if I've been with somebody, that somebody I know closely cannot also be with that person. And there's kind of like nuances within that, like if you were just dating a person, if you just had sex with a person, if you were in a serious relationship with the person, there's levels to it that determine whether it's off limits for sure, or you know maybe it's a discussion that can be had. All right. So that's one reason why that person would choose that, is that that's kind of what society has said that is the norm, is you don't touch or you don't mess with people that your friends or relatives have already messed with. The other part of that can be, it could be too difficult seeing that person's ex happy with someone other than themselves. All right, that's possible. It could be that what this couple, or what this person had with the ex when they were a couple, felt and actually was something special, and they don't want that erased or taken away by by pursuing, um they don't want that taken away by their friend or their relative getting with that same person and possibly wiping that whole thing out, kind of like starting a whole new special situation that's not with you. It could be that it was a bad relationship and they don't want to be reminded of that person in any way. It could have been a very volatile relationship. It could have been a really nasty ending to the relationship, and they don't want to hear the person's name. They don't want to hear stories about the person. They don't want to know how how the person's doing in life at all. Like, they want no reminder of that person even existing. And the last thing that could be the reason for that type of thinking is maybe that person thinks that the ex could have been into the friend all along. And that opens up a whole new set of, kind of like insecurities and thoughts and just questions about the relationship. All right. So the last choice, excuse me, also while I sip my tea. You like my fancy sip? Let me stop playing with y'all, man. All right. So the last option was to ask permission from your friend before, moving forward with that situation with the ex. The reason why that person might take that approach is because they don't want to be surprised. Oh, well, okay. I actually was talking about it from the point of view of the person who's being asked. The person who's doing the asking might feel like they don't want to surprise the friend or the relative with that type of news. Like, maybe there's an event and you just end up showing up with that person, and that friend had no idea that that ex was going to show up with you or even be there to begin with. So that could be very awkward. Another reason could be you might want to ask because you might feel like that person needs, or that person can give you some, friendly advice about being in a relationship with this person, or maybe just some things to watch out for, or even just a couple of warnings about that person. Another reason is, you know, as this person's friend or relative that they are not a fan of deception in a relationship. And being that you guys have a strong relationship, you don't want to jeopardize that by not being honest with this person, especially for something hmm, this serious, Even if they didn't have anything serious, or even if they did, it might be something that that person wants to know. Okay, so it's definitely something that this person feels like they should tell their friend in order for the relationship to stay intact, and for the safety of the relationship. So oh, you know what? I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who's on the show today, or who's joining us tonight. What's up, Tanisha? How you doing? But yeah, let's continue. So the last reason would be that actually that was the last reason. Those are the reasons that that person would choose to tell their friend or relative before they actually move forward with this person. Okay, great. So are any of these right or wrong? That's kind of what the real question is. Like, is it right to feel like, you need to know if your friend or your relative is going to be dating somebody that you've been with? Is it, right to just let them be and let them do their thing? Where do I stand on it? Well, I want to hear from y'all. All right. This is why I do live, because I definitely want to hear your perspective and your points of views. But I feel like the person that says that, an ex cannot date a friend or a relative or anybody who's close to you might have some insecurities there. All right. And this is honestly most people. And the biggest insecurity, from what I understand, unless somebody can tell me different, which I'm open to listening to, what I can understand is that the biggest insecurity is that what you had with that person won't matter as much if they're able to connect with someone who's close to you as well. Like somehow, like it takes away from what your relationship was with that person. Now, y'all can tell me if I'm right or wrong. You can tell me if there's another reason. Like I said as well, if there was a bad relationship or if it ended badly, I totally understand not wanting to have that person around at all. Like you don't want to, even know that person exists. I get that. But I'm saying outside of it being a bad relationship, like if it was a good relationship, if everything ended on a somewhat positive note, to the point where, it was respectful, then what's the reason then? Like what is it that says that somebody that you've dealt with cannot be with someone that you know beyond what it does to your ego? Y'all let me know. I could be missing something. I could be totally missing the mark with this one. But if you can give me some reason outside of how your ego feels, I am open to listening to it and hearing it. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm definitely on the side of someone who would allow that to be. Like I'm not going to stand in the way of anybody I care about's happiness. Oh, hold on one second. I've got an alarm set. I got to turn that off. All right. Yeah. So I'm definitely on the side of, if it was my ex, whether it was somebody I really cared about or someone I dealt with briefly, she can date whoever the hell she wants because she's a grown ass woman, and whoever she dates is also a grown person. So who am I to come in and be like, nah, you can't date this person? And we're not even together, which is the crazy. It's the part that I really have trouble wrapping my mind around is how me as a grown ass dude, right? I'm supposed to go to somebody else who's an adult, who's not my child, and let them know that it's not okay to date whoever they want because this person happens to be too close to me in my life. Therefore, they're off limits. This also goes for family too. I know I sound crazy right now, but I don't care. Like this goes for family. This goes for when women say you can't date my sister or you can't date my cousin or whoever they're related to, that list goes on as well. Like why? Why can't I date that person? I don't get it. I mean, I get it. This is the reality is that as human beings, sometimes we mistake who we really are internally for our egos. All right. We think our ego is really us. And so when our ego says, hey, man, like that's not cool, like that's something that affects me, or that's something that we can't do because that makes me feel some type of way. That's not really you. That's the ego talking. That's the ego trying to stay relevant and stay alive. And again, if y'all could tell me something different, I am here to hear it. I really am. I'm open to it. So I want to see these comments and see what people are talking about. Thank you so much, DNS556. I appreciate you with the compliment about my channel. I'm doing my best. But yeah, if y'all could tell me, besides how it makes your ego feel, why dating someone who a friend or a relative has been with is off limits. Like, why is that like an absolute hell no? Like, what is it that makes that so taboo? And again, for those who are just joining who weren't here from the beginning, the conversation is, can you date a friend or relative's ex, right? And if not, why? What's the reason behind that? Aside from having a negative relationship or the relationship ending negatively, and aside from it affecting the ego in a negative way, what really is it at the very root and core that makes a person feel like someone you were with can't be with someone that you're close to? I'll even take it a step further, right? Like, I am someone who, when I get in a situation with somebody I'm serious with, I'd like to explore being open. All right. That's just kind of where I'm at. And with that, I've thought to myself, I know there's people that say if we're in an open situation, that's okay, but let's do that outside of our, friend group, for example, right? Like, let's do it with people we don't know. I'm actually of the opposite mind of thinking. And I think that if we were going to explore that, I would want it to be with people that I trust and know. So even people that I'm close to, like I would at least, I'd at least bring that idea to them. Like, hey, what do you think about this, that, or the other? If we're really, trying that out. I'm just saying that's how I look at it because for me, I rather the comfort of knowing that this is happening with someone that I can trust, someone that I already trust, not that I can trust, that I already have trust in, and someone that I know their character and I know who they are on a deep level. I know we're going to continue being friends and we're going to continue seeing each other, but it won't be awkward for me. If anything, I feel like that'll make us closer. I don't know. That's how I look at it. And I understand everybody doesn't look at it that way, but I'm just saying that's where I'm coming from. So that's why when it comes to if I was in that situation, let me give you a story, right? Of something that happened to me. So there was a situation where I met this woman. We were at this gathering, a friend of a friend. Well, she was a friend of a friend, and we were at a gathering. And um I thought she was cute. Another person that was a friend of that same friend thought she was cute as well. We talked about it, blah, blah, blah. I went ahead and I got her number. I don't know if he got the number or not as well, but whatever. So we kicked it a couple times. We, got sexually involved. We only had sex once, twice, right? But this was around the time when I think it was Love and Hip Hop was the show where Ray J was on there, right? And he had the famous quote of she smashed a homie, right? And so it was that episode. And I remember hearing that line and being like, damn, she smashed a homie. And and the young lady who was there, like the young lady, she was like, she made a comment that was kind of like, yeah, like what's wrong with that? Like, what's your issue with that? And I was like, I don't have an issue with it. I would just like to know. Because at that moment, when she said that, I was like, that's kind of like a not a red flag. That was kind of like a that was her to me, her way of asking because maybe she's doing it or she could be thinking of doing it. So to me, I automatically was like, oh, she might be she might be smashing a homie, right? So I was like, I don't have a problem with it. I just would like to know. And that was my honest answer because I don't have an issue with it. My biggest issue is with honesty and I don't like deception. I'm not into deception. And when people are not totally like straightforward, I feel like I can't trust you in other ways as well. So we can't call each other friends if I don't trust you fully. All right. So that happened, right? So that was probably one of the last times that she actually came over. So a few months pass. I go to that same homeboy's house because I used to cut his hair as well from time to time. I do his hair like every couple weeks or so, maybe every 3 weeks, depending on the situation. And so I went to his place. When I parked, I saw a car that looked very familiar, right? It looked like her vehicle. And I'm really good with cars. Like when it comes to small little details, people might not get it, but I look at people's vehicles and I'm just when it comes to cars, I'm good with cars. So I saw a car that looked like hers, and it even had like the license plate that she had. Not the number. I don't know the license plate number. I wasn't that, you know, detail oriented, but it was a Florida State uh like frame, license plate frame. And I remember that. I was like, it looks like her car, but whatever. It could be, it could not be. Who knows? So I go in there and I didn't mention before too that she used to come by with her dog. She had the cutest, like maybe 9 week old pit bull. Sorry about the noise. Like a 9 week old pit bull, gray. Oh, she was beautiful. Like the dog was that was a really cool dog. And so I go to his place. He lets me in, and before we could go into his room to start the whole haircutting process, his roommate's door opens up, and the dog comes out first, right? And I'm like, man, this dog looks familiar. The dog remembered me, of course, because I'm good with animals as well. And she comes to me, tail wagging, and I go down and pet her and everything. And so so I'm like, all right, clearly something's going on. Like she's here for sure. The girl's here for sure. And so a few moments later, she comes out the room with his roommate, who's his cousin, who's the same dude that night that we were like talking about, being interested in her or whatever. And I was just like, I had to keep a straight face. Like I had to keep my face straight as possible because I couldn't give anybody the win that made it look like, I'm looking stupid over here. But the biggest issue with that, oh, and by the way, basically, they were in the room doing whatever they was doing, being adults, doing what adults do in rooms with closed doors. Um, but the biggest issue with that wasn't that she was messing with somebody I knew. That was not even secondary. That was like tertiary. That was way down on the list. The thing about it was that she stopped fucking with me and she did not let me know, for one. And she wasn't straight up about the fact that she was messing with with somebody I knew, even though me and him weren't like close or anything like that, but we were cool. Like we would say what's up to each other. We'd talk a little bit in passing. But that was the biggest part, was like, yo, you could have just told me straight up, like, you're interested in somebody else and he happens to be, because that surprise factor, that's the part that I'm like, ugh, I'm not with that. Like that's not cool. I don't know if she knew I was coming or not that day, but it was an awkward situation. I'm glad the dog was there, because the dog was basically the only thing to kind of break the awkwardness. And I just kept petting her, like, all right, at least you're here. Because right now I'm looking crazy. But again, I still kept a straight face. So, I kept the poker face going. But because of that, it's just made me feel like, if you're going to do anything that is not traditional, there's a lot of talk about people in open relationships, and there are a lot of couples that are, opening their relationship up to others in different ways, whether that be swinging, or whether that be polyamory, polygamy, whatever the case may be. People have different ideas of how they want to open their relationships up. The biggest thing about that is making sure that you do it in an ethical way, because it's not going to work if people are, being sneaky and being deceptive. Like, you're going to destroy whatever it is you have if that's the direction you're going to go. Like, being open in your relationship isn't an excuse to be dishonest and to cheat, because you can still cheat in an open situation. If you're not following the guidelines and the rules of the relationship, you can definitely violate and be considered cheating. All right. But that's kind of not off topic, really. Like, it kind of relates to what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, we're all grown. All right. If two people decide that they want to be together for whatever reason, whether that be because they have a strong sexual attraction to one another, or maybe these two people are a better fit for each other than you in this X. Like, do people ever think about that? I don't know if people actually think about that, or if the ego, you know, tells you too convincingly that there's no way that anybody could be a better fit than you. That's something else that the ego would definitely say. Oh, this person can't do them like you did them. Like, they're not gonna do the things that you do for them. And you tell yourself this, and you're starting to believe this. You're like, yeah, you're right. They can't do the things that I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm the best fit for them, even though y'all not together. How does that make any sense? Like, please explain. So maybe they're just a better fit. That person isn't X for a reason. If you guys were a fit, then you would be together, right? Right? Okay. So maybe they're a better fit, even if it's a sexual attraction. Let them people go off and enjoy themselves sexually. Hopefully you're out doing the same thing. Like, you've moved on already, and you're getting it in with whoever you're getting it in with. Why are you worrying about what that person's doing? Why you worrying about it? You shouldn't. Oh, my guy. I am so glad to see my guy in here. Earl, what's going on? Earl says open relationships still have rules. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't go into an open relationship and just think that means, oh, so I could just fuck everybody. That's not how it goes. Like, there are rules. Now, if the rules say you can go fuck everybody, then that's a totally different story. But at that point, why even call it open? You might as well call it something totally different. But absolutely, open relationships do have rules, and um, that's an important an important point to make. All right, but back to the part about dating somebody's ex, right? You got to let go at some point, and there's one of two things happening. Either there was a very negative ending, or maybe a negative like streak during the relationship, that you don't want to be involved with that person in any way. You don't want to hear about them. You don't want to know about them, or you're just not letting go. And you got to let go of the past. If you're really over this person, or you say you're over this person, you got to let go of that. You have to. How are you supposed to move on with somebody else if you're thinking about what your ex is doing? What the fuck that got to do with you? Really, I'm asking a serious question. If you're supposed to be moving on with your life, sorry about that, and doing you, how are you doing that and still being concerned about whether your ex is involved with somebody else that you know or not? How? I don't get it. I don't understand how how they both coexist. I don't see it. There was another situation where I was messing with somebody, right? And I had messed with this person once or twice. And it was more of a fling, but still, like, we were having sex. And we were at an event, and a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, really close, actually came up to me and he asked me, he said, "Hey, what's the situation between you and that person?" And I told him straight up, I said, "We messed around a couple of times." And he was like, "So, like, is it like, is it okay for me to, basically talk to her?" I was like, "Yeah, like, yeah, we messed around, but she has the option." That's another thing. Like, let's stop, putting handcuffs on people, whether it's an ex or somebody you're dealing with on a casual level. I'm casually dealing with this person. How am I going to be like, no, 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 you can't talk to her? I'm already having sex with her, so nobody else can have sex with her. Meanwhile, I have multiple partners that I'm having sex with. Does not make sense at all. It doesn't. It's kind of hypocritical, and it's something that I think people would do themselves a favor if they kind of look closer at, or look more closely into, about themselves. I told him, go ahead and holler. If you want to holler, go ahead. And she actually told me later on, like, "Hey, one of your homeboys tried to holler at me, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I know." Like, I told him it was cool. And she was upset. I'm sorry to laugh. I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to laugh at her. I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing because the idea that I have the right to say that he cannot go and talk to her because me and her have messed around a couple of times. It's just it kind of blows my mind. It really does. And I'm not gonna say I don't get it. I get where it's coming from, but hey, we need to keep our egos in check for real. Because if you let your ego get loose and have you out here thinking that you are your ego, have you convinced, you will be all the way fucked up in this game. All right. And when I say game, I use that word loosely. I don't mean it's a game. I'm just saying out in this dating world, out in this world of, trying to make real connections with people, your ego can be your biggest enemy. It really can, because it can convince you of things that aren't true, and it can convince you of things that make you go after things that you don't really want. All right. So if you take away anything from this, podcast today, this episode, it's that your ego is very persuasive. It's very good at trying to keep you it's very good at trying to keep itself alive and relevant. So anything it can tell you to keep itself in the picture and in the mix, it will. You have to be able to distinguish between who you really are and who your ego is. It does serve a purpose. All right. I think it helps people have a level of selfishness, which is not negative, even though it has a negative connotation. But you should think of what's best for yourself before you try to help other people out or try to, think of what's best for other people. It's kind of like the whole thing on the airplane when they say to put on your mask before you put on anybody else's mask. You can't help anybody else if you're not solid or you're not in a good place. So that's all that means. So the ego helps you keep some level of selfishness, which is healthy. But if uncontrolled, the ego can take over, and now it's the one making all the decisions and it's the one thinking the things that you think you're thinking. All right, it's controlling the thoughts, it's controlling the actions, and it actually makes you smaller in this world. Instead of looking at the big picture, instead of looking at what's best for you on the largest scale, you start to look at what's best for you in terms of what your ego tells you. So today we had to get a little deeper. You know what I'm saying? Like we had to deep dive into the whole ego thing. That was just a necessary conversation to have because I really want you to ask yourself if you're one of those people who feels like someone can't date your ex, someone you know or somebody you're close to can't date your ex. Really ask yourself why. Again, everybody can have their own reasons. I don't know what your reason is, but ask yourself if that reason is rooted in an insecurity or if it's rooted in pain or whether it's rooted in something that really matters or if it's just something that you're holding on to that you haven't let go of yet. That's your question to answer, you know. Um I feel comfortable and solid in my answer for how I approach this, but you have to ask yourself the same thing. All right. So that was today's episode of the Sex Mechanic Podcast. I kind of like this time frame. It's later in the day, and it seems to be a decent time. So, like I said, I'll keep tweaking it to see what times work best. But if you enjoy and like my content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to like the video. Also, make sure to comment on the video if you feel like there's something you can add to the conversation, which I know you can because we got into some stuff today. So I know you can add something to this conversation. And I want to mention that the road to 1,000 subscribers, it begins now, baby. All right. But I need everybody's help. I need you to share when you can share. I need you to comment. And I absolutely need people to be clicking that subscribe button. I could do 1,000 before the end of the year. I really want to do 1,000 by the summertime. So if y'all can help me get to that, maybe we could have a celebration on one of these shows together. So that's today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you all later. Peace.